Welcome, everybody, to OG Searcher. I'm Jim Miller, aka OG, and this is going to be the first of my videos dealing with different numismatic topics. And in case you didn't know what numismatics means, it is the study or collection of coins, paper money, and or metals. Um, I'm going to be starting this series of videos dealing with a topic that I think is a pretty serious um, event that's going on in the hobby, and that's the prevalence of social media videos and websites touting how you can get rich just going through your pocket change and finding all of these mint errors and varieties that's worth tens of thousands of dollars, if not more than that. There's four that I'm going to cover today. That's not saying that these are the only four. There's many, but these are the ones that I get almost on a weekly basis. And in fact, I've gotten calls this week on all four of these, a couple of them multiple times. The four we're going to cover will be the 2000 dated Sacagawea dollar, the 1979 near date or wide rim Susan B. Anthony dollar, the 1943 copper, and I'm also going to include the 1944 steel cent in this one, and last but not least, the 1982D small date copper cent. Let's start with the Sacagawea since that is the one that I seem to get the most calls about. Now, in case you didn't know, 2000 was the first year for the Sacagawea dollar, and the year before in 1999 was the last year that they did produce the Susan B. Anthony. The Susan B. Anthony wasn't popular, because it was almost the exact same size, just a little bit larger than the quarter, and it was made with the same metals and composition that the quarter was made with. So it was very easily to confuse the two of them together. So people just didn't like them. So to help distinguish the small dollar coin from the quarter, they came out with the idea of making it out of a brass alloy, which give it a golden color. And the first one was the Sacagawea dollar. And to help promote this, the U.S. Mint was going to do a couple of things to early release it in conjunction with the millennia changeover in year, which the first thing that they did was they got with General Mills, and General Mills was going to do a promotion to include some of these new golden dollars along with the 2000 Lincoln cent in specially marked boxes of Cheerios. Now, in case you don't know what the packaging looked like, this is one of the ones that of the cents and the packaging that was included with the Cheerio boxes. There was actually 10 million of the cents included in the boxes. But the Sacagaweas, there was only 5,500 of those. And I'm going to put up a picture of what the packaging looked like for the Cheerio dollar. It also came with the cent too. So here it is. Well, a few years after the release, somebody noticed that uh, the eagle's tail feathers looked different from the one that was released for general circulation that was included from the one that was included in the Cheerio boxes, at least some of the ones that were included. Um, and there's a comparison side by side of the two. And if you look, the one that was included in some of the Cheerio boxes, the tail feathers had a chevron like effect to them. The Cheerio dollar is on the left. The reason for the change was the gentleman that designed the die, and I can't remember his name right off the top of my head right now, thought that after the coin was produced, the tail feathers looked too golden. It looked like the same color of the feathers of the rest of the eagle, where this is supposed to be a bald eagle with white tail feathers. So they come up with the idea to mute the chevron effect and make it a smooth uh, contour to the tail feathers to make the tail feathers look lighter in color, um, to kind of give it a contrast from the rest of the bird's feathers. So that was the reason that they, redesigned the hub to to the smooth tail feather design. Well, the only way that you can get, and these were considered like trial pieces, the ones with the chevron effect, and somehow or another General Mills got in possession of a few of these. So they got included with the Cheerio boxes. Now, none of the ones with the Cheerio or the chevron design effect were released for circulation normally through the normal channels. Now, there has been several of these, graded. And like I said, not every one of the Cheerio dollars that were in the Cheerio package came with the chevron design on the tail feathers. And since you can't see the back from the front, they didn't think there was any way that you could tell, you know, with it in the packaging, that whether or not it was one of the trial strikes or not, of the prototypes. But they did find a way to tell that. If you look at a Cheerio dollar in close examination, there is a couple of die polish lines that come off of the shoulder right below the date of Sacagawea. And those markers are only on the prototypes, the trial strikes. So that is one. And now they're not easy to see. You have to kind of manipulate the coin, in the light and catch it a certain way. But all of the ones that are the chevron tail feathers will have that die marker on the shoulder. So now let's get into, values, because again, they're touting you're going to get tens of thousands of dollars on these. So far, and I've got these statistics, and I'm going to have to look at them right here. There's two main grading companies, PCGS and NGC, and they keep a record of how many coins of each type, denomination, and grade that they do certify. And to date, the last numbers that I got, that PCGS had certified 81 of these in all grades, and NGC 43. And curiously, none of them are in circulated condition. They're all in mint state. Now, the auction records for these, the last one that sold in PCGS certified holder sold for, it was an MS66, sold for a little over $2,100 with the auction buyer premiums included. 67, the last one I could find, sold for a little over 6,000, and a 68 a little over 10,000. Now there is a wholesale marketing guide that most dealers use called the Gray Sheet, and I looked for the values, wholesale values that were listed in the Gray Sheet today. And right now an MS63 shows at $800 and an MS66 at $2,100, which is, corresponds to what the last one sold for at auction. So I don't think you're going to be able to retire with this. And if you find it in circulation, it's going to be worn, and it's not even going to be worth these numbers, because an MS63 means that it has absolutely no wear on the coin. It wasn't in circulation. If you and I'm sure that there might have been a few that were some people tore out of the Cheerio wrapper and spent. There probably are a few of them out there. But even if all of the ones were um, that were put in the Cheerio packaging were this variety, the maximum number would have been 5,500 of them. And there not all of them were. Um, there's been estimates that it might have been only 200 of them that were the chevron type that we classify as the Cheerio dollar. So chances are you're not going to find one, and I get calls about this constantly about they've got the one that's worth tens of thousands, and I tell them no, you can go to the bank and get more of them right now. And but hopefully this will clear up the difference between the one that is selling for a couple of $1,000 and the one that you just need to just spend. Okay, the second thing we're going to look at is the near date 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar. It's also known as the wide rim because of the design of the rim. The reason that the date looks nearer is because the design of the rim is actually wider and makes it closer to the date. Now, here is the pictured as a comparison for the normal date and the wide date. You can see by looking at the base of the one that on the near date it is closer to the edge of the rim, the little scallop thing that goes around the rim in the design, than the one that is the far date, the normal date. In doing a little research on this, I found on a website that the Mint had said that they had prepared 643 of the dies with the wide date or wide rim near date. A normal die's production life is somewhere between 20 and 25,000 coins. If all 643 of these dies were used, that would have meant that somewhere between 13 million and 16 million near date wide rim Susan B. Anthony's were produced. Um, Experts are saying that not all of these dies were used, that the Mint might have seen the difference and discarded the red, all the near date wide rims to make them more uniform. But they still estimate that there was probably over, if just one die was used, then that would have put the production at somewhere over 20,000. That's still a lot of coins. And to be honest with you, the Susan B. Anthony dollar is probably the least collected United States coin that there is because it's just not an attractive coin. And most people like to collect pretty. A circulated wholesale, going back to the coin dealers newsletters, the gray sheet, there's not even a value for circulated grades of this coin. In MS63, wholesale value is $15. In 65 is $25. So that's not a great value for this. And again, even if you had a whole roll of this, you couldn't even maybe buy dinner with it. And you're probably not going to even find a dealer willing to buy them. I know I'm not. I'm not interested. Let me go back. If you enjoy looking through coins and searching for varieties, that's all well and good. That's part of the hobby. And most people that care about this, that's how they want to participate in this part of the hobby. They don't want to buy these. They want to try to find them. That's the joy that they get. So that's that's another thing that you have to kind of take into account when you're dealing with these varieties. Now, the next one that we're going to look at is the 1943 steel cent that was accidentally struck on copper planchets, and also the 1944 that should have been on a copper planchet that was accidentally struck on steel planchets. Most people think because they have a 1943 dated cent and they Google it or they see it on some YouTube video or Reddit site, that since they've got a 1943 and it looks different, that it's got to be the one that's worth the tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, 1943 steel cents are not rare. They actually produce, when you look at the combined mintage figures of the three mints that produce the steel cents, they produced almost 1.1 billion with a B cents. Now, this is just one bucket of them that I've got laying around on the floor. I've actually got about four more of these buckets that I have. Now, you have to realize that because they were different in 1943, people saved them because they're different. So someday they're going to be worth a lot of money. So they had even a lot of them survive, circulation. Well, now we get back to the one that is different, in which is the 43 made out of copper. Shortly after 1943, the first one of the copper 43s was discovered. So it has been searched for now going on 80 years. And to date, they have found 20 from the Philadelphia Mint, just one from the Denver Mint, and 5 from the San Francisco Mint. So that's a total of 26 pieces out of a mintage of over a billion. So that is why this copper one has been selling for a lot of money. When there's something that is worth a lot of money, there are unscrupulous people out there that will produce imitation counterfeits of something to try to scam the unsuspecting or somebody looking for a quick dollar. And this is the case for this. The most prevalent one of these, that is the way that they make the counterfeit, is they copper plate the steel cent. Now, the one thing that you can do with a steel cent is, and even if it's copper plated, now I'm going to use a regular steel cent, but and I think I've even got a copper one over there that I can pull if you want me to. But the steel cent, even through a copper plating, will stick to a magnet. Now you can even, this is a earth magnet, which is pretty strong, but even a refrigerator magnet that you may have will pull a steel cent, even copper plated. If it attracts it in any way at all, then it's not a copper cent, because a copper cent, and this is a copper cent, copper wheat penny. You can see there's no attraction whatsoever. The other way that they altered these is they got in and they changed the digits of the date. Now, these are the older counterfeits. One of the easiest ones to use is the 1948, where they remove part of the 8 to make it look like a 3. These are usually you're able to identify by the style of the 3, or just looking around and you can kind of see that the date has, there's maybe some evidence of the manipulation of the date under magnification. But now we've come into the new generation of these, and we're going to talk a lot more about these in a later video. But one of the things that's hitting the hobby right now is Chinese counterfeits. They are flooding the numismatic market right now. And they're coming in all sorts of shapes, sizes, packaging, different coins. I mean, I've seen like off-centered cents from all 1800 dated coins that were all mint state. And one of the ones that I am seeing is struck counterfeits of the 1943 copper cent. And I'm also have seen 1944 steel cents counterfeits. In fact, I'd actually found one in like the bucket of 1943 steel cents when I was sorting them out from the rusty ones from the non-rusty ones. And I'll be honest, when I saw it, my heart was doing this, and especially when I got the magnet out, because the zinc plate, the 44, is sometimes to mask that they're copper, but the magnet pulled it, and so I was, I thought I'd had it, and then I got the magnifying glass and looked at it, and I could see the strike wasn't like it should be, and so I knew it, and it didn't weigh right, so I knew that it wasn't one. So anyways, the 44 steel is the same thing in reverse. There has only been 39 of those found so far. There have been 30 P mints, 7 D mints, and 2 S mints of the 44 made out of the steel planchet. Chances are you're not going to find these. If you do, and they pass all your, these little handy tests that I just told you about, then yeah, by all means contact me or some other dealer. But, try these first before you do. The last one that we're going to talk about is the 1982D small date copper cent. Now, some of you may or may not know, the mint changed the planchet mid-production year in 1982 from the normal copper planchet to a copper-plated zinc planchet. That made 2 varieties just on the planchet style right there. They produced these at both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. The San Francisco Mint only produced the proofs that year. Now, there was also a slight change in the font style of the 2 of the date. If you look at the image on the left of the small date, you can see that the 2 has a little curve towards the base of the number, whereas the large date, the diagonal that goes to the base is almost a straight line. That's the easiest way to tell the difference between the large date and the small date. Now, the 7 known varieties that they have of these is they know that there is a large and a small from the Philadelphia Mint in both copper and zinc. At the Denver Mint, in copper, there was only the large date, and in zinc, there was both the small date and the large date. That was the normal production, and they made tens of millions of all of these. To date, there has only been 2 authenticated that were produced at the Denver Mint with the copper planchet with the small date. Now, that's not many. Now, yes, they are worth quite a bit of money, but you need to be able to distinguish the large date from the small date. And it's not that hard if you look at the images that I posted here. And by the way, I do want to thank PCGS's CoinFacts for the images that I've used here. I really appreciate it. But it's not that hard to tell the large date from the small date. So that's the first thing you need to do, is to determine, is it a large date or is it a small date? If it's a large date, there's no big deal. You don't need to go any further. Now, if it's a small date, there's a very easy method to tell whether or not you have got a copper planchet or a copper plated zinc planchet. They weigh different. The copper one weighs, right, we talked about it earlier, approximately 3.1 grams. The zinc one weighs about 2.5 grams. So that's a significant amount of difference in weight. Now, I'm going to show you a little thing that I bought as part of a collection, and I think these were distributed probably in the 1980s, when the difference was discovered. And it's a little seesaw-like contraption. You can see it's got a little fulcrum point here in the middle on basically a popsicle stick. And they've glued a zinc penny to the end of it. And what you do, and I'm going to tilt it down here so you can see me demonstrate it here. What you do is you can take one of your pennies, and let's put it here on the end, and you can see it didn't go down. So this tells me that this is a copper-coated zinc planchet. Now this is a wheat penny, so I know for a fact that it is a copper planchet. So look what happens when I put this on there. You can see it tilted the popsicle stick down towards to this end here. So that tells you that this is a copper planchet. It's not the copper-plated zinc planchet. And these are very easily made. I mean, it doesn't take but a glue and a popsicle stick and a little round piece of wood. And it doesn't have to be perfectly round, just as long as, you get the fulcrum point right on it. And that will tell you if you've got the copper planchet or not. So if your small date is not the copper, then you don't have the third one of these that was discovered. So hopefully that'll help you with that. Believe me, there are many other ones that I get phone calls about, with these die varieties and things like that. In closing, I want to kind of quote one of the co-authors of the leading reference book for die varieties in the market, and that's called the Cherry Picker's Guide. They were produced by Bill Fiva and J.T. Stanton. And for a short period of time, J.T. Stanton worked for me part-time in my shop when I had it right outside of Savannah, Georgia, where he lived before he passed. And, we would go through and search die varieties, for things like that for fun, especially if we got a hoard of 30,000 wheat pennies in or something of that nature. But, we, in discussion about varieties and things like that in his book, and he said that, you can categorize these varieties two different ways. One is there's a big interest in them, which is a very, very small percentage of these varieties. The other one falls into the category that nobody gives a. And he said most of the varieties in my book, nobody really cares marketing wise about this. He said they're just fun. They're fun to find. It's fun to search for. And again, that's what most people that care about these, they want to search for them. And we're going to talk about tools that you can use if you want to pursue this part of the hobby in a later video. But I hope this has been informative for you. I hope that you will subscribe to the channel to see some of the future videos. Please put your comments in the bottom of anything that you disagree with me, which that's fine too, or other items that you might want to see discussed in a future video. I do appreciate you. I hope you will subscribe and come back often. Until next time, see you then.